Today we're talking about a game that I have such high hopes for. Today we're talking about Argent Saga. Welcome to Hive State. I'm actually making this video a bit later than I would have liked for a new game overview, but it's okay. We'll roll with it. Argent Saga is a game created by the people over at ARG. Now, normally whenever I make these new game overview videos, I like to keep them as unopinionated and just explanatory as possible. But I gotta start by saying, I love this game. But let's talk about what Argent Saga is for a moment. Let's kind of roll into what the theme is, or at least a brief synopsis of it. So the entire story for Argent Saga happens on the planet Argos, or at least a little section of it. It's all on a small continent called Turum. Now Turum is broken up into 6 different districts, and each one of these is based around one of the great towers that's there. Now these towers produce something called shard light, and this both powers and enhances pretty much everything on this continent. Now there are actually 2 core, ideologies when talking about shard light, and they're broken up into almost what seems like factions to me, one of which is the Forge and the other the Rose. Now the Forge is very interested in using the shard light to help, technology grow and advance, where the Rose more feels like it should be in freedom, that you should only use technology as sparingly as possible. Now when you play Argent Saga, you're playing as a champion who's pretty much partnered up with a spirit. Now a spirit's this little creature that's basically composed entirely of the energy coming from shard light. But let's talk about what's a little more important. Let's talk about how it plays. Now in Argent Saga, each player gets a deck of 40 to 60 cards, 5 towers, 1 of each color. You have a shard deck that is 10 cards. You have a champion and a spirit. The champion that you decide on will choose what colors you can include in your deck. So it locks in some of your decisions. But the spirit can alter this. If you choose a spirit of a different faction or color or attribute or whatever the terminology in Argent Saga is, that spirit lets you add a set number of additional cards of its color into your deck. Now this is an all or nothing kind of thing, so if you're using a green champion with a white spirit, you can use 0 or whatever its printed number is. Now the shard deck is normally built of basic shards, and you get one of these every single turn, so as the game progresses, you can start playing stronger and stronger cards. Now, there are actually even some special shards that you can include in this deck, which will have different effects both upon arrival and, they'll just do things within the game. There aren't too many of those out right now, but it has quite a bit of potential. Now next, let's talk about the 5 different towers. These will be shuffled and placed face down in front of you at the start of a game, and it is the only thing standing between you and your opponent. Well, that and the cards they play, but whenever you break all 5 of your opponent's towers and hit them one more time, you win the game. But there's a catch. Each tower has 2 main things you really need to pay attention to when you're playing. First is the tower's power. If you hit it and you don't meet or surpass that power, it doesn't break. It'll flip face up and now you know what it is, but you didn't break that tower. Next is its ability. If you don't pay super close attention to the abilities that are still remaining, there's a chance that can come back and bite you, because there are some things that, your opponent could draw some cards off of, which that's fine if you're aiming to make it a final turn and swing through. But then again, you could also break a tower, lose 2 of your creatures, and now you're done. I found that this can really make some neat situations when playing. You can be sitting there with 2 towers still face down. One of them is just going to have your opponent draw 2 cards. One of them is going to bounce 2 of your units. So you're sitting there with a 50-50 shot of, am I going to hit the right tower first? And it's such a fun little mind game almost. As of launch, there's another thing that I found that you really want to pay attention to, and that is the strength of the towers. In the basic decks that you'll be playing against, 3 of the towers have 1500 power and 2 of them have 1000. So depending what you've already broken, you can kind of guesstimate if your 1k creature can swing in and hit. It's really fun. Okay, so we've briefly talked about deck building and the towers, which I keep calling shields, but let's go ahead and let's talk about the gameplay a bit more. In Argent Saga, you're limited to 5 spots that you can place your units in, and that's in front of each tower. Now, I found this limitation to honestly be just fine. There's actually something that's kind of cool about it. Placement is a hint important. Now, it doesn't matter where your units are to what tower they can attack or what creature they can attack if it's tapped. But some creatures, or units I should say, if your opponent plays it, the thing across from it on your field can't attack. And some things will affect the cards next to it. Basically, there's a hint of strategy that's sometimes there, and you just have to keep aware of it, and I like it quite a bit. Now, the champions and spirits we talked about earlier do more than just customize the way that your deck is gonna be built. No, they also have, well, some pretty good effects for in the game. Your champions have abilities that they can tap for normally that will allow you to do things both on your turn and your opponent's turn. And the spirits often have a common ability that can be used on every turn. However, once per game, they can use something called Soul Burst, and this basically kills your spirit, but it gives it a much stronger effect that you can only use once. But be careful when you use it, because this does turn off its regular effect. Now, your main phase in this game is very free flow. You can play cards if you wish, attack if you wish. Things do have summoning sickness, so the turn you play them, you can't attack with them unless they have an ability that says otherwise. You also can only attack your opponent's towers, almost said shields again, or you can attack tapped units. So swinging with units make you have to think, is attacking with this going to get it killed next turn? Now in this game you can't just block, you have to have a unit that allows you to block. I believe the term's Guardian. And if you decide not to run anything with Guardian in your deck, you have to really figure out how to control your opponent in more clever ways, and I'm okay with this. Oh, also, if anyone wants me to make a video breaking down the different elements in Argent Saga, like I did for the factions in Bakugan or the houses for Keyforge, let me know. I'm more than happy to do it. All in all, I've had so much fun with this game. So much so that I actually think I'm going to dedicate a decent bit of time on the channel to it. Or at least for a good bit. If you want to see a box opening, there's one coming next week, or it might be the future. If it is and it's already up, I'll put a link down in the description so you can just go ahead and click it and jump right there to your heart's content. So I do believe I may also do set reviews for this game, and if I decide to, I'm not only going to do the first booster set, which is Betrayal, but also the starter sets, because, well, they're separate, which is actually super nice. And I do hope you'll stick around for all that is to come. Ring the bell, subscribe, do all the things that, well, everyone tells you to do. But whether you do or whether you don't, you'll see me when you see me.